Aquí lo espero en Miraflores. No se tarde en llegar, cobarde.
Today we're going to talk about Nicolas Maduro. Maduro didn't just fall out of the sky and land in the presidential palace. He started out as a bus driver and labor union organizer, climbed the political ladder under Hugo Chavez, and eventually became Chavez's vice president. When Chavez died in 2013, Maduro stepped up, ran in a special election, and narrowly won. From there, he stayed, and stayed, and stayed. Through disputed elections, economic collapse, international sanctions, and mass emigration, Maduro managed to hold on to power for over a decade. The U.S. and Venezuela have a complicated, love-hate kind of relationship. Venezuela sits on some of the world's largest oil reserves, and the U.S. needs that oil for its refineries, so neither side can fully ignore the other. Cooperation can stabilize the region, slow mass emigration, and give Venezuela some relief from harsh sanctions, while giving the U.S. leverage without sparking a conflict. But it's
Everything you hear is my personal opinion, commentary, and occasional side-eye, not facts. I do not have secret sources, insider tea, or a crystal ball. All opinions are based on publicly available info and my own perspective. Please feel free to disagree respectfully and form your own opinions.
messy. The Venezuelan government is accused of authoritarianism and corruption. Trust is low on both sides, and every deal comes with political risks and moral contradictions. In short, this isn't a friendship. It's a tense, transactional partnership where both sides benefit, even though neither really wants to admit it. Venezuela is basically living in a real-life disaster movie. The country sits on some of the world's richest oil reserves, yet mismanagement and corruption have turned it into an economic nightmare. Think hyperinflation, empty store shelves, and a currency that's basically toilet paper.
Nuclear sites. Just recently, in an operation known as Midnight Hammer, all perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement.
Nicolas Maduro and his ruling party have tightened their grip on power, rigging elections, jailing or exiling opponents, and making sure they stay comfortably in charge while everyone else struggles. Meanwhile, government officials siphon off oil profits, inflate contracts with kickbacks, and sometimes even hijack humanitarian aid meant to feed starving citizens. The result? Millions have fled, malnutrition and disease are rampant, and daily life feels like surviving a reality show designed by villains. In short, Venezuela's elite are thriving, the people are suffering, and the rest of the world just watches in disbelief.
Successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York, it's Jay Clayton, for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed.
The U.S. didn't just wake up one day and decide, let's indict a foreign president for fun. No, Nicolas Maduro earned that spot on the indictment roster because of serious, alleged criminal activity tied to drug trafficking and narco-terrorism. Essentially, U.S. prosecutors accuse him of turning Venezuela into a hub for cocaine exports, working with drug cartels, and using the profits to fund his government and enrich himself. On top of that, the indictment alleges he was involved in corruption schemes, like siphoning money from Venezuela's oil company, PDVSA, and using state resources to reward allies while ordinary citizens starved. So the indictment isn't just a political stunt. According to the U.S., it's a formal criminal charge claiming Maduro was part of an international drug and corruption operation. The U.S. even offered a multi-million-dollar reward for information leading to his arrest.
Nicolas Maduro will appear in court.
His arraignment now set for tomorrow on a 4-count indictment that charged him with leading a 25-year narco-terrorism conspiracy. ABC's Aaron Katersky has more on what comes next for Venezuela.
This morning, Nicolas Maduro is behind bars, arriving in New York aboard a government plane that touched down hours after he and his wife surrendered to U.S. Special Forces.
At its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, and the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job.
They were taken to the USS Iwo Jima, President Trump posting this image of Maduro aboard the ship, blindfolded, restrained, and wearing gray sweatpants. From there, a stop at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, before the flight to Stewart Air National Guard Base, where Maduro descended the steps at sunset, surrounded by federal agents.
So what does it really mean that the U.S. indicted Nicolas Maduro? First off, an indictment isn't the same as an arrest. It's basically the U.S. saying, we think you've been running a corrupt, drug-linked government, and we're putting a big legal target on your back. According to U.S. prosecutors, Maduro and his inner circle allegedly turned Venezuela into a narco state, working with cartels to ship cocaine into the U.S., raking in cash through bribery, kickbacks, and even selling diplomatic passports to traffickers. Yup, it's as wild as it sounds. Now let's talk about the pros of all this. For one, it puts serious international pressure on Maduro's government and shines a spotlight on years of alleged corruption and abuse. For Venezuelan opposition leaders, it's a kind of symbolic justice, a reminder that someone, somewhere, is keeping tabs on the chaos. Plus, it gives the U.S. some leverage to push the government toward political negotiations or fairer elections. In other words, the indictment is less about immediate action and more about shaking up power structures. But, of course, there's a messy flip side.
Maduro flew by helicopter to Manhattan, where he, his wife, and 4 others are charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy to import cocaine, and possession of machine guns. The indictment said Maduro is at the forefront of a violent, corrupt 25-year conspiracy to flood the United States with cocaine. Prosecutors said he enriched himself, corrupted his country, and partnered with some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world. Maduro has previously denied involvement with drug trafficking, accusing the U.S. of using the war on drugs as a bid to remove him and seize Venezuela's vast oil reserves. In a final interview filmed with state television just 3 days before he was captured, Maduro saying the U.S. government knows that if they want to seriously discuss an agreement to combat drug trafficking, we're ready. Maduro took power in 2013 after the death of Hugo Chavez. Federal prosecutors said, like Chavez, Maduro participates in, perpetuates, and protects a culture of corruption in which powerful Venezuelan elites enrich themselves through drug trafficking.
Targeting a sitting president can destabilize an already fragile country, making shortages, migration, and general chaos even worse. It also risks diplomatic backlash, with other nations calling the move a violation of sovereignty. And let's be real, an indictment doesn't magically fix hyperinflation, empty shelves, or crumbling hospitals. It's a pressure tactic, not a miracle cure, which means everyday Venezuelans could end up bearing the brunt before anything gets better. At the end of the day, the U.S. indictment is a geopolitical power move, part legal, part symbolic, and part, let's see if this shakes things up. For some, it's a step toward accountability. For others, it's just another layer of uncertainty in a country that's already been through way too much. Life in Venezuela right now is basically like being stuck in a never-ending survival game. And, spoiler alert, most people are losing. Once one of Latin America's richest countries, thanks to its oil, Venezuela is now a place where money barely buys anything. Prices for food and basics keep skyrocketing. Wages don't keep up, and most families are scraping just to survive. Millions go hungry or spend hours lining up for groceries that may or may not be there. Healthcare? Don't even get me started. Hospitals are crumbling, often lacking supplies, medicines, and even running water, so getting treated for something as basic as an infection can feel impossible. Schools and public services are in shambles too, leaving kids and young people feeling like the future is a bleak cliff they can't climb. It's no wonder that millions of Venezuelans have left the country, looking for work, safety, or just a place where electricity and running water are a given. For the people still there, every day is a juggling act between hunger, instability, and uncertainty. And yet, somehow, they keep going. Life in Venezuela isn't just hard. It's relentless, messy, and heartbreaking. But it's also a story of people trying to survive against the odds.